Have you ever wondered why so many people in today's world feel stuck, numb, or lost, despite having more choices, more entertainment, and more comfort than ever before? We scroll endlessly, binge watch, drink, shop, gamble, hook up, smoke, and overwork. But behind these habits, there's something deeper going on, something most people never talk about. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, once said that every form of addiction is an unconscious substitute for something else. What is that something else? Let's be honest. When people talk about addiction, they usually picture extremes: drugs, alcohol, or gambling. But what if addiction is not just about substances? What if it's a sign that something inside us is starving? Think about it. That moment you reach for your phone, not because there's anything important, but because silence feels unbearable. That second glass of wine at night, not for pleasure, but for escape. That constant need to stay busy, not because you're ambitious, but because you can't stand being alone with your own thoughts. Jung believed addiction wasn't just a bad habit or a lack of discipline. He saw it as a cry for help from a part of the soul that had been forgotten or silenced. In other words, addiction is not the real problem. It's the solution we keep reaching for when we don't know what else to do with the emptiness inside. And that's the real trick modern life plays on us. We live in a world that encourages distraction over reflection, productivity over presence, consumption over connection. So when that inner hunger shows up, we numb it instead of listening. But here's the paradox. The more we avoid that inner emptiness, the louder it gets. So here's the question. What are you really running from when you reach for the next dopamine hit? Is it boredom, pain, loneliness, shame? Or maybe the fear that without all the noise, you'd have to face yourself? This is where healing begins, not in blame, not in shame, but in honest reflection. Jung believed that true recovery only starts when a person has a genuine spiritual experience, not religious dogma, but a moment where something inside shifts, where we stop looking outside for rescue and start reconnecting with what's been lost inside. And maybe that's what addiction really is, a compass. Broken, yes, but still pointing to something we've been missing all along. So, where does this inner hunger come from? Why do we feel empty in a world that's so full? It starts early, long before we pick up our first bad habit, long before we scroll, shop, or self-medicate. It begins when we're taught to disconnect from ourselves. As children, we are born whole, curious, sensitive, emotional. We feel deeply and express freely, but somewhere along the way, we learn that some parts of us are too much, too sensitive, or not good enough. We're told to stop crying, to stop dreaming, to sit still, be quiet, follow rules, and little by little, we abandon the parts of ourselves that don't feel accepted. What's left is a version of us that looks normal on the outside, but feels hollow inside. Carl Jung called this the loss of soul. It's not about religion. It's about identity. When we hide who we really are just to survive or be accepted, a fracture forms. And into that fracture seeps loneliness, shame, anxiety, and the hunger for something real. This is why so many people try to fill that void with noise, numbing, or control. It's not because they're weak. It's because they're wounded. We chase validation, applause, likes, promotions, thinking they will prove we're enough. But even when we get them, something still feels missing. That's because the part of us that's starving can't be fed by success. It's the part that was silenced, ignored, or punished long ago. Have you ever felt like you're performing your life instead of living it? Smiling when you're not okay? Saying, "I'm fine," when you're actually exhausted or broken? That performance is the armor we wear to hide the fact that we feel unseen. But here's the truth. When your soul is starving, no amount of pretending will satisfy it. And that's the big lie modern society feeds us, that if we just achieve more, earn more, look better, we'll finally feel whole. But wholeness doesn't come from fixing your life. It comes from remembering who you were before you started hiding. So if you've ever felt like something inside you is missing, like you've lost touch with the real you, you're not broken. You're being called back to yourself. And that call, it doesn't come through noise, it comes through silence. Now let's talk about the system that benefits from your disconnection. Have you noticed how modern life constantly offers you quick fixes? Feeling anxious? Here's a pill. Feeling insecure? Buy this cream. Feeling lost? Sign up for this productivity course. Can't sleep? Stream another show. Can't focus? Try a new app. Our pain has become profitable, and that's not an accident. The more disconnected we feel from our true selves, the more we crave substitutes, products, entertainment, status symbols. Carl Jung warned that modern man risks losing his soul in exchange for comfort, efficiency, and approval. And now, more than ever, that trade is happening on a global scale. You don't need to be a philosopher to feel it. Just look around. We reward busyness over stillness. We praise image over authenticity. We measure worth by numbers, followers, dollars, deadlines. It's a culture that tells you to be everything for everyone except yourself. So we become experts at pretending. We smile through exhaustion. We post highlight reels while breaking down behind the scenes. We say yes when we want to scream no. And inside, we're starving. Not for food or fame, but for something real. That's why so many people fall into addictive loops, not just with substances, but with screens, drama, hustle, even relationships. Because when your inner life is neglected, the outer world becomes your only escape. But here's the twist. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as designed to keep you distracted, compliant, and constantly consuming. It doesn't want you to pause, because if you paused, you might remember who you are. And if you remember, you might stop needing what it's selling. This is why healing feels like rebellion. When you slow down, when you rest without guilt, when you say no and mean it, when you stop chasing and start feeling, you're stepping out of the script society wrote for you. You're not being lazy. You're coming back to life. So if healing is a form of rebellion, how do you actually begin? Not with grand gestures, not with 10-step plans or perfect morning routines. It starts in silence. In the moment you put your phone down. In the breath you take before reacting. In the pause between impulse and choice. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. But once you do, that's where your power begins." Healing means feeling what you've been avoiding, sitting with the discomfort instead of numbing it, listening to the voice you've silenced. It's not glamorous, it's not always fun, but it's real. And real is what your soul has been begging for. You see, most people aren't broken. They're buried under expectations, obligations, shame, survival. Your job isn't to become someone new. It's to remove what was never yours to carry. And when you do, the addictions begin to lose their grip. The noise starts to quiet. The hunger softens. Because the thing you've been searching for out there, it was always inside. You just got disconnected. So reconnect, not to an identity, not to an image, but to your essence. Start small. Say no without explaining. Rest without guilt. Speak without shrinking. Make space for stillness. Let discomfort speak. Let the silence soften your defenses. And above all, listen. Really listen. Because that quiet voice within you, that's your compass. That's your true north. And once you follow it, the system that profited from your confusion starts to fade. The masks fall off. The chase ends. And what remains is something the world can't sell you. Peace. You don't have to be perfect to heal. You just have to be honest and brave enough to face what hurts. So I'll ask you now, what are you really addicted to? What have you been running from? And are you finally ready to come home to yourself?